In our headlines on this Wednesday, June 18th, here in South Korea. President Lee Jae-myung is headed home from Canada, having partaken in the extended G7 summit on energy security and having sat down separately with his foreign counterparts, including Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba. And following an unexpected early departure from his diplomatic engagements in Canada, US President Donald Trump held a National Security Council meeting on Tuesday to tackle Iran's nuclear weapons pursuits. Meanwhile, North Korea is deploying its military builders and deminers to Russia's Kursk region to support the Kremlin's reconstruction efforts. Intentions to this end were shared by Russia's presidential security advisor. We start over in Canada, where President Lee Jae-myung joined members of the Group of Seven and their partners for the extended summit session on a host of mutual concerns on Tuesday local time. Our top office correspondent Yoon Jung-min starts us off.
It was all smiles with a warm welcome in Kananaskis, Canada, as the Group of Seven began its expanded session with an official welcome and a group photo, with the notable absence of U.S. President Donald Trump. Invited were several guest countries, including South Korea, Australia, and India, for some crucial discussions.
For common problems in energy security, common opportunities in new technologies from information technologies, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, the need to have reliable supplies that this table can produce.
The new South Korean leader Lee Jae-myung took the opportunity on his debut on the global stage for multilateral summit diplomacy. His focus was on Korea's vision for diversifying energy, aiming to expand renewable energy and upgrade the country's power supply system at a time when there is more power demand due to the use of AI. Also addressed war security and critical minerals within the international framework and forging a global AI ecosystem, stressing Korea's role and contribution along the way.
Amid a major shift in global economic security, we have made clear our vision and role by actively taking part in discussing pending global issues. We have consolidated the status of the Republic of Korea as a G7+ country.
As Korea resumes its full-fledged diplomacy, the new president took the first step at the G7 summit, having unveiled Korea's visions for energy and AI. Now, many are watching whether more summit diplomacy would follow at the upcoming NATO summit next week. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News, Calgary.
Also in Canada, President Lee Jae-myung sat down with his Japanese counterpart Shigeru Ishiba on the sidelines of the G7 summit. Our correspondent Cheonggyecheon covers these talks and the president's other bilateral engagements.
It was a packed day of diplomacy for South Korean President Lee Jae-myung on his final day at the G7 summit in Canada. There, President Lee held his first summit with Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba.
우리나라에서는 일본과 한국과의 관계를 가깝고도 먼 나라라고 호칭합니다. 마치 한마당을 같이 쓰는 이웃집처럼 우리는 뗄래야 뗄 수 없는 오늘을 계기로 한국과 일본이 미래지향적으로 좀 더 나은 관계로 발전하기를 진심으로 기대합니다.
I truly hope that marking the 60th anniversary of normalized diplomatic ties, exchanges will grow not just between our two governments and businesses, but also between our people. I look forward to Korea and Japan working together in a way that contributes more to the region and to the world.
During the 30-minute meeting, the leaders reaffirmed their commitment to regular summit-level meetings while agreeing to strengthen trilateral coordination with the United States, particularly in responding to regional geopolitical challenges, including North Korea. President Lee also had bilateral talks with other G7 members, the United Kingdom and Canada.
The leaders of South Korea and the UK agreed to move forward on updating their post-Brexit FTA. They also discussed working together on Korean Peninsula, peace and security.
In his summit with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, Lee emphasized defense cooperation, mentioning the participation of Korean companies in Canada's submarine acquisition program, with contracts expected to be finalized by 2028. Economic cooperation was high on the agenda in talks with the leaders of Brazil, Mexico, India, and the European Union.
The Lee Jae-myung administration will continue to pursue pragmatic diplomacy based on active international cooperation, with national interest as the top priority.
However, the most anticipated meeting between President Lee and U.S. President Donald Trump was canceled after Trump cut his trip short due to the escalating crisis in the Middle East. The two sides have key issues still unresolved, including the Trump administration's looming July deadline on reciprocal tariffs and defense cost sharing. 송유진, Arirang News.
First Lady Kim Hea Kyung on Tuesday met with members of the Korean community at the Calgary Korean Association. According to the presidential office, Kim shared her gratitude for the association's efforts to maintain active connection with South Korea and promised greater support for overseas Koreans. Later in the day, the First Lady made her way to the National Access Arts Center, an institution in support of artists with disabilities led by a Korean director. Here, Kim voiced interest in Canada's disability support programs and emphasized the importance of expanding exchanges between South Korea and Canada in the field of disability arts. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy also made a brief visit to Canada to call on the Group of Seven for heightened pressure on Russia amid its alarming assaults against civilians in Ukraine in recent times. Our Seoul has the latest.
During the G7 summit in Canada, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy on Tuesday called on member nations to invest in Ukraine's defense technologies. The comments were made at the special G7 leaders meeting for Ukraine, where Zelenskyy shared details of Russia's missile and drone strikes targeting civilians in his country. The Ukrainian leader said Russia's upgrading of Iranian drones and its cooperation with North Korea is the reason Ukraine is actively working on the development of interceptor drones and why the country requires additional funding for their production. Zelenskyy also called for tougher sanctions on Russia, stressing that the EU's 18th sanctions package must reinforce restrictions on Russia's banking and energy sectors. He also called on G7 leaders to impose a strict price cap on Russian oil. During a meeting with Zelenskyy and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney on the same day, the Canadian leader announced that his country will provide Ukraine with a new military package worth more than $2 billion. Carney says the new military aid will give Ukraine drones, helicopters, and ammunition. Canada will also provide Ukraine with a $2.3 billion loan to help it rebuild public infrastructure destroyed by years of Russian bombing. Meanwhile, the Kremlin on Tuesday said U.S. President Donald Trump was right to say that it was wrong to remove Russia from the Group of Eight in 2014. The comments come as Trump said at the G7 summit on Monday that the G8 had been wrong to expel Russia after annexing Crimea from Ukraine. According to Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov, despite being expelled from the group, the G7 had lost practical significance for Russia and looked rather useless now. While the G7 summit takes place in Canada, Chinese President Xi Jinping held a summit with the leaders of 5 Central Asian countries on Tuesday. During the summit in Astana, Xi criticized Trump's tariff policy, saying that there are no winners in a tariff war. Xi said China and the 5 Central Asian countries of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan will strengthen its cooperation as Beijing looks to further deepen cooperation on trade, energy, and infrastructure with the resource-rich region. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
In other news, North Korea is deploying its military builders to Russia's Kursk region to support the Kremlin's infrastructure, reconstruction, that is, efforts. Intentions this end were shared by Russia's presidential security advisor following talks with Kim Jong-un in Pyongyang earlier on Tuesday. Our Kim Jong-sil has more.
North Korea is sending thousands of military construction workers to Russia's Kursk region, including 5,000 construction workers to rebuild damaged infrastructure and 1,000 sappers to clear the area of landmines. The decision was announced by Russia's top security official Sergei Shoigu after he met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Pyongyang on Tuesday afternoon, their second meeting in just 2 weeks.
It's a gesture of brotherly support from the North Korean people and their leader, Kim Jong-un.
North Korea is believed to have already sent some 12,000 combat troops to Russia's Kursk region since October. South Korean intelligence says around 600 have been killed, with total casualties nearing 4,700. Analysts say Pyongyang's support isn't without strings, and it's likely expecting a payoff.
North Korea will likely get advanced systems like the Panzer air defense weapon and reconnaissance satellite technology.
Professor Kim added that Pyongyang will also likely receive oil and food supplies in return, crucial support as it struggles under sanctions and isolation. Other analysts say the visit also reflects shared concerns over Washington's recent signals regarding the situation in the Middle East.
With Trump doubling down on saying Iran must never get nuclear weapons, Russia may be reassuring North Korea, which has taken real risks for Moscow and still wants full recognition as a nuclear power.
Pyongyang gave no details on the new deployment, but said the two sides exchanged views on global and regional issues and reached full consensus. A South Korean presidential office official on Wednesday called the deployment concerning and said Seoul does not support it. Earlier, the foreign ministry said the employment of North Korean workers abroad violates UN Security Council resolutions and called on Pyongyang and Moscow to halt their cooperation. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, following an unexpected early departure from his diplomatic engagements in Canada, U.S. President Donald Trump held a National Security Council meeting on Tuesday to address the escalating conflict in the Middle East. Our Moon Hye-ryun reports.
As the conflict between Israel and Iran continues to escalate, U.S. President Donald Trump convened a National Security Council meeting in Washington. Taking to social media on Tuesday ahead of the talks, Trump warned that the U.S. knows where Iran's supreme leader is hiding and called for unconditional surrender. He added that while the Iranian leader is an easy target, they are not going to kill him, at least for now. Following the 18-minute NSC meeting, CNN reported that Trump is warming to the idea of using U.S. military assets to strike Iran, and that he spoke by phone with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. American strategic bombers equipped with bunker-busting munitions are seen as a key component of any potential operation aimed at disabling Iran's Fordo nuclear facility. According to Reuters, fighter aircraft have been deployed to the Middle East already, although U.S. military officials have emphasized their defensive nature. So far, Washington's involvement in the conflict has remained defensive, supporting Israel by helping intercept Iranian missile attacks. The U.S. already has significant military presence in the region, including troops, warplanes, and air defense systems equipped to neutralize aerial threats. While the White House has yet to issue an official statement regarding the outcome of the NSC talks, analysts suggest that the administration may also be preparing a diplomatic proposal alongside its military options.
This would involve ending the Iranian nuclear program, Iran agreeing to not controlling any uranium enrichment capability, and then in return, the United States would lift economic sanctions.
On Monday, Israel issued evacuation orders affecting 300,000 people in central Tehran. President Trump took to his social media platform on the same day, urging civilians to immediately evacuate the Iranian capital. The U.S. State Department has since launched a task force to assist American citizens and residents seeking to leave the region. As the situation unfolds, global attention is now on whether the United States will enter the Israel-Iran conflict with military support or push for peaceful negotiations. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
A planned second supplementary budget will offer cash handouts to all citizens. Now, this was announced following a meeting between government officials and ruling party members earlier on this Wednesday morning. The relief package also includes additional assistance for low-income and vulnerable groups. Accordingly, the size of this extra budget plan is projected to hit over 20 trillion won, or some $14.5 billion, which is higher than this year's first supplementary budget that amounted to 13.8 trillion won. Korea's LG Display is investing over 1.2 trillion Korean won for production here at home. The The global OLED leader made the announcement back on Tuesday, adding it plans to expand its next-generation OLED infrastructure through the year 2027. Around 700 billion Korean won will be poured into its main production in Paju, Gyeonggi-do province. The fund reportedly comes from its sale of an LCD plant in China. LG Display hopes its production blueprint for the home ground will boost employment and national growth by turning display innovation into a tangible economic engine. The Korean Army has been holding solemn burial ceremonies for soldiers who lost their lives during the Korean War, but whose remains were recently recovered. The remains of 11 soldiers were laid to rest at the Yeongcheon National Cemetery, the Daejeon National Cemetery, and the Seoul National Cemetery from this past Monday to Wednesday. The remains were recovered between the years 2000 and 2024 from regions where intense battles took place during the Korean War. Their identities were confirmed through DNA analysis using genetic samples provided by surviving family members. As part of celebrations to commemorate its 20th birthday after restoration, Seoul's Cheonggyecheon has opened up a section of its stream that is normally closed to the public. Our Park Gun-woo was there.
With daytime temperatures soaring past 30 degrees Celsius, people in Seoul are doing all they can to stay cool, from carrying sun umbrellas to clutching icy drinks. And for many, it's the perfect weather to enjoy the water or even get right in. And there's a special place that's drawing big crowds, the upper part of Cheonggyecheon, temporarily open to the public to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the stream's restoration. Laughter echoed as children and adults splashed, kicked up water, and even waded through stronger currents for fun. International tourists were also spotted easily, cooling off and snapping photos.
Living in somewhat of a big city, you don't normally get to see really lovely streams like this, especially when it's so hot and humid. Kind of refreshing to be able to step in the water. It was a lot of fun.
But for Seoulites, Cheonggyecheon isn't just for play. It also offers a peaceful escape from the heat.
It's been so hot lately, but by the stream, it feels cool, so it's a great place to rest. I often like coming out here for some fresh air, especially as sitting all day at work feels stuffy.
That comfort is the result of a remarkable transformation that began 2 decades ago.
Cheonggyecheon was once sitting under concrete during Korea's industrial boom. Restoring it raised environmental concerns, but now it's clean enough for native fish and birds to thrive. A true case of urban ecological revival.
In fact, the stream is home to around 20 native fish species, including the Korean spotted barbel, which only survives in grade 2 or cleaner water. And that's thanks to regular water and bacteria tests conducted to maintain quality. Beyond ecosystem revival, the stream is widely recognized as a successful model of urban water management, offering more than just eco-friendly value.
Cheonggyecheon helps lower the surrounding temperatures raised by heat-absorbing pavement like asphalt, and even improves air quality, acting like an air conditioner for the city.
Seoul now plans to transform more than 300 kilometers of streams running through the city into vibrant, accessible waterfront parks just like Cheonggyecheon. And as the city moves toward a more water-sensitive future, Cheonggyecheon stands as a reminder that even in the heart of a big city, nature can make a peaceful comeback. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
On the entertainment front, Blackpink's Rosé has made K-pop history as her song 아파트 has become the longest charting K-pop song on the Billboard Hot 100. According to latest findings, 아파트 entered week 34 on the Hot 100 at number 24, the same spot as the week prior. Now, this breaks the previous K-pop record of 33 weeks set by Jimin of BTS with his track Who. Rosé's 아파트 is a collaboration with American pop star Bruno Mars, and it went viral for its addictive hook and entertaining nod to a popular Korean drinking game.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. At least 10 people were killed when a ballistic missile flattened a 9-story residential building in Kyiv on Tuesday, as Russia carried out its deadliest attacks on the city in months. Kyiv was hit by a massive assault involving over 440 drones and 32 missiles, striking 27 locations across the capital in the early hours of Tuesday morning. Ukraine's southern port city of Odessa was also targeted in a separate strike. Among those killed in the apartment block bombing was a 62-year-old American citizen, while more than 100 others were wounded. Kyiv's mayor announced a day of mourning, while President Zelenskyy denounced the strike as one of the most horrific on the capital since the war began. At the same time, Russian forces launched an attack on Odessa, targeting civilian infrastructure, killing at least 2 people and injuring more than a dozen. In Argentina, former President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner has been placed under house arrest after a 6-year corruption sentence was upheld. On Tuesday local time, a federal court in Buenos Aires approved 72-year-old Kirchner's request to serve her sentence at home rather than in prison, with judges taking her age and health into consideration. She is subject to an electronic ankle monitor and strict restrictions, including remaining at her residence except for approved outings and providing a list of authorized visitors within 48 hours. This follows the Supreme Court's decision to uphold her 2022 conviction for directing public works contracts to an ally and to enforce a lifetime ban from public office. Meanwhile, thousands of Kirchner's supporters took to the streets in Buenos Aires fighting for her release. Despite her legal situation, Kirchner, who served 2 terms as president from 2007 to 2015 and is former First Lady, remains a powerful presence among working-class Peronists. The European Commission has put forward a legally binding plan to phase out Russian gas and LNG imports by the end of 2027, aiming to formally end the EU's energy dependence on Moscow. Under the proposal on Tuesday, no new gas or LNG contracts may be signed after January 1, 2026. Short-term contracts concluded before June 17, 2025 must end by June 17 next year, and all existing long-term contracts will be terminated by January 1, 2028. LNG terminals will also stop servicing Russian clients on a similar timetable. The proposed ban is structured in accordance with EU trade and energy laws, allowing for its adoption with a qualified majority and bypassing vetoes from Hungary and Slovakia. Pope Leo XIV is set to spend half of July at his Castel Gandolfo summer residence, away from the sweltering Roman summer. The Vatican confirmed on Tuesday that the pontiff will stay in the traditional papal residence on the shores of Lake Albano from July 6th to 20th, with an additional weekend break in mid-August over the Feast of the Assumption. The move revives a centuries-old practice discontinued under Pope Francis, who remained in the Vatican. While Rome's midday heat has soared past 35 degrees Celsius this month, Castel Gandolfo's estate is roughly 10 degrees cooler. The Pope's public and private audiences have all been suspended from July 2nd through July 23rd, and Vatican activities will resume on July 30th. Choi Ji-hee, Arirang News.
The heat is continuing across the country. It's going to get hotter and hotter. The daytime temperature in Seoul rose up to 31 degrees Celsius today and will rise to 32 degrees Celsius tomorrow. You should be careful to avoid heat-related illnesses under such hot conditions. In the second half of the week, inland areas will also enter the rainy season. It will rain in the central parts of the country and Jeollabuk-do province from tomorrow night. On Friday, heavy rain is expected across the country. Up to 80 millimeters of rain is forecast in northern parts of Gyeonggi-do province and northern parts of Gangwon-do province, with 10 to 60 millimeters in other areas. Tomorrow morning, Seoul and Jeju will start off at 22 degrees, Daejeon at 20 degrees. Highs will move up to 32 degrees in Seoul and Daejeon, 33 degrees in Chuncheon and Daegu. Rain is in the central parts of the country will stop on the weekend. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Right, those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. As always, thank you for watching.